That was quite the cliffhanger of Taizai this week. I didn't think I would see Gowther in this war at all. I really didn't. Because of, Fraudrin being amongst the Ten Commandments, I figured that Gowther wasn't here at all, but apparently we're wrong. Gowther is there, and he is manipulating the Goddess Clan to get to the gate to send in reinforcements. So, damn. I gotta say that Gowther is pretty terrifying, because we gotta remember what type of character he is. He's someone that can alter people's memories, mess with their minds, and he's someone that's always seemed rather not aware of what he does, because he's morally gray. He doesn't realize what he's really doing. He does things because he doesn't realize it's actually wrong. And this is like one of the first few times we have actually seen in Taizai to where Gowther has an objective. He's doing something that he needs to do. Something that is for, the Demon Clan. And in this case, he's going to be harming the Goddess Clan. He's going to be closing the gate, which is pretty scary when you think about it. I mean, Gowther of all people, initiating going in like that, I wonder exactly what he's going to be doing in, the upcoming chapters. I mean, is he just going to destroy the gate and get rid of it, or is something else going to happen? But clearly, though, Gowther having a big part in this war is probably going to be something to do with the future chapters of Taizai. What I'm getting at is the present timeline, because whatever we're seeing here with Gowther, what he's doing with the Ten Commandments, most likely is going to play a huge role in the future when, Gowther finally comes back up in the present timeline. Once we're done with the flashback and stuff, I feel like this is going to have a huge part to that. So 2 Archangels are introduced in this chapter of Taizai, and to be honest with you, it's going to take me a bit to kind of get used to their names, so if I don't, say their names or anything, please forgive me, because fucking really hard names to pronounce. However, though, these 2 Archangels that are introduced in this chapter, the designs of them, very interesting, because when you do think about it, a lot of angels in myth and stuff do look very creepy, and some of you might be aware of this, some of you might not, and the way you see these Archangels designed, especially the one with the 3 heads, looks very creepy, and in some cases, you might even think this man might look like more of a demon than an angel, but if you do know, a lot of angels in mythology and stuff in stories, they do look very, very weird and creepy compared to what we normally think an angel looks like. In this case, the dude with the 3 heads, he actually looks like a real representation of something you would see in old ancient stories of angels, and I do like the design of the 3 heads, like the old man to like the, I guess, the aged youth, and then also seeing like someone that is also like I don't know how to, describe him, someone that looks a little bit psychotic. I mean, you see the way the middle head, he looks a little bit psychotic. You have that youth on the right, and then you have, the old manish looking one on the left. And so I'm assuming that the heads play a huge role in this man's abilities, because for him to have 3 heads, it has to do something. I mean, I highly doubt his heads are just there for show, so most likely has a huge part to play when it comes to his, abilities and however he's going to fight the 10 Commandments. But what we do see from his design, though, he does have multiple wings. Once again, a lot of wings that's very similar to what we saw from the other Archangel, but also Elizabeth as well. So we're noticing a lot of, similarities amongst these certain angels, which hints at most likely Elizabeth maybe being a possible Archangel as well, or something even more greater than them, even higher than them, because as we know, one of the 10 Commandments last week's like, wait a minute, where have I heard that name Elizabeth before? Where have I heard that? That sounds very familiar. Maybe either Elizabeth is above the 4 Archangels, or, she's amongst them, one or the other. Regardless, though, the actual other design, the other design of the other Archangel, reminds me a lot of King's design, which, I mean, it most likely has something to do with, the mangaka Nakaba-sensei. Nakaba-sensei does have designs for characters that are very similar to each other. I mean, there's a lot of characters throughout, Taizai that look very close to how Bon looks, so most likely just the design of the character looks very similar to King thanks to it being Nakaba-sensei, and I highly doubt, the one that looks like a little boy that looks similar to King is actually probably young. I'm willing to bet that's probably one of the oldest Archangels there, his looks can be very deceiving. So yeah, I mean, the abilities of these guys, now let's talk about the one with the 3 heads. The abilities, he has very fast regeneration. This man can heal himself when he's completely cut in half, which, Holy shit. I mean, I thought that man was gonna die right there when, Gowther just came in and cut him in half, but then the man just reformed and everything was completely fine. He took a lot of damage. Like, this man straight up took so many punches by Derriere, just straight in the face and in the chest and all over the place. You saw this man's body crunched in, and then all of a sudden everything just popped out. He's just like, it's like, and it popped all out. That reminded me a little bit of Majin Buu, now that I think about it. You know, when Majin Buu, when he, like, puffed out, like, the energy blaster bullets out of his body, he's like, and then you just saw it pop out. That's what that scene kind of reminded me of. Regardless, though, the regenerative abilities of this dude is pretty crazy. So that would mean that you would probably have to completely disintegrate this man or wear down his power to a certain point to where most likely he could no longer regenerate. So yeah, I mean, this proves that that man definitely would be a hassle to deal with. And then the other one was able to resist the purgatory flames. So that, crazy enough right there. Resisting purgatory flames didn't even affect him, didn't even harm him at all. He just brushed it off like it was nothing. Shows you the power of this kid, this Archangel that said, oh, I'll defeat you all in 5 minutes, and the other one said, 10 seconds, which that's something I actually want to talk about now. So, does anyone remember what Gowther's, ability is as a commandment? I'm curious if anyone remembers his ability at all. If you remember, if you lie in front of Gowther, and even if Gowther lies, you'll be turned to stone. That was his commandment. It affects everyone. We saw Merlin get affected, which we found out, like, she's not really affected by commandments, but we do know that if you lie and you don't hold up to your promise or whatever, obviously you'll turn to stone. And in this case, I noticed Nakaba-sensei made it a very clear point in this chapter that these two made like a promise / bet with each other, and Gowther obviously had to hear it. He obviously had to hear it or something like that. And when you hear the one say, like, I'll beat them in, 5 to 10 seconds, and the other one says, nah, it'll just be 5 minutes, I wonder if Gowther's ability, his commandment, will have any effect on them. However, we do have to remember, in the past, when Gowther's commandment was introduced, we do know that apparently some goddesses might be completely immune to his commandment. So, there is a possibility that these goddesses, these archangels that, the 10 commandments are currently going up against, they might not be affected at all by the commandments, but there is a possibility, because Nakaba-sensei made it very clear in this chapter to show Gowther attacking them, but also show these two making a bet like a promise, and obviously if you don't, hold up to your end of the bargain, like if you run away or something, or if you lie or whatever, obviously you'll turn into, stone. So, because of this, I wonder if that's what's going to happen to them, or is it going to show off that they are completely immune to the 10 commandments and they can not be affected at all. One or the other is probably going to happen because of Nakaba-sensei kind of focusing on that in this chapter. So, overall, the power of these two Archangels is pretty ridiculous. I gotta say that they're probably the strongest of the 10 commandments strength. Like, I would say they would definitely be on Estarossa, maybe, Zeldris is actually strength level. I could be wrong here. Maybe they could be a lot higher than them in power, but I mean, from what we're seeing right now from these Archangels, they used like Omega Arc, this big blast, wiped down an entire army, but, that army's kind of fodder, so it doesn't really count. But they have a lot of power. They definitely can regen, and also able to brush off 10 commandment attacks without really even being affected at all, and really showing any damage on their body, so they clearly are stronger than most of the 10 commandments, which I feel like what Nakaba-sensei is trying to do here is show that these Archangels are a lot stronger than the 10 commandments, and he's using the 10 commandments to prove that point. For instance, if, Meliodas, let's say, was to talk about the Archangels, he's like, oh, the Archangels are way above the 10 commandments, obviously be like, okay, so that's cool to know, but we'd be like, that's kind of, that kind of sucks. I wish you would show us why they're stronger. And I feel like Nakaba-sensei showing this to let us know, like, yes, they are definitely stronger. Here's, concrete proof why the 10 commandments are weaker than the Archangels, is because the Archangels can literally kick their ass with just 2 of them, while they're all trying to go up against him. Now, I really am curious, though, how Estarossa and Zeldris would stand up against these Archangels. I'm really curious about that, because if, commandments can affect them, definitely, Zeldris and Estarossa's, commandments would have a huge play in this fight, and I would love to see how they would play a huge role in however, this battle turns out. However, though, I do say that the chapter is very, very simple. It pretty much has the 2 Archangels versus, the 10 Commandments, and it's kind of just one-sided for the most part. It shows off, like, the 10 Commandments going all in, they have no effect, and then the Archangels, they're initiating their counterattack against him, and that's kind of how the chapter leaves off. Well, technically, the chapter doesn't leave off with that. It leaves off with Gowther popping up. Anyways, though, I'm going to conclude this video review because, honestly, it was a very simple chapter. That's not much more to really talk about. So let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below, and I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.